Hello, welcome to The Winning Balance. Today I have a guest that is also a dear mentor of mine, Mr. Jimmy Rex. Thanks for coming, brother.
Dude, thanks for having me, bro. Yeah, happy to do it.
Of course. We are sitting in Jimmy Rex's studio. That's what I've been using this whole time. So he asked me for the address, and I'm like,
I didn't know you were using my studio, so.
Yeah. I was like, hopefully you know this one. But so Jimmy, like I said, he's a mentor of mine. I'm in his WAT group, which we'll dive further into that. You were a top dog in the real estate industry for 2 decades, number one agent in Utah. I definitely want to hear more about that journey. You are an avid investor into companies and real estate. And one thing that I freaking love about you, Jimmy, is that you are honest through and through about the ups and downs as an investor. That's something that I try and do as well. And then you've been involved with fighting sex trafficking heavily in your career. And that's been really cool for me to see of you giving back. And then you run WAT, right? That's like what I would see is your full-time gig now.
Yeah, that's my full-time gig, yeah.
Yep. And that's We Are the They, a men's coaching group. So that's where I'm going to start. I need to plug WAT because it's been absolutely insane for me and my growth specifically. And so I think this is a good starting point of how I kind of got introduced to you and WAT in general. And then I'll stop talking and we'll get into your story.
Sounds good.
But so I moved to Utah 2.5 years ago, and my first task even before I moved here was I got to figure out who the players are in Utah. And obviously your name kept coming up in my research, and fast forward a little bit, I started getting some traction in the real estate space. And one of my good buddies, Alec Burbage, who was one of the first people that even talked to me. I'm some random guy trying to pick everyone's brain, right? That no one knows. And long story short, Alec was telling me his story about what WAT has done for him. So I was like, oh, I'm intrigued. We didn't go super deep into that conversation. So in my one-dimensional brain, I thought, oh, business, ROI, I'm sold. And there's a couple other people that I got to know that spoke highly of WAT. So I had you at one of our Beehive events. You spoke. What you said resonated a ton with me, and being a go-getter and holding relationships around you to a high degree, and something, it's not just money for Jimmy. So I respected that a ton. But so jumping into WAT, I legit thought it was going to be business, 100% business. I was like, I'm going to jump into this. I've heard it's amazing from people that I respect. And so I was your easiest sale for that that portion. I was like, Jimmy, when's the invoice ready? Send it over. And as soon as it came in, I paid for it. And still to that point, I didn't get a sales pitch. I didn't get anything. So I just showed up at the first Ludus a day in. I'm like, what is going on here? But this is where WAT has changed a ton for me, and where it's doing exactly what I thought it would originally, but in a whole different way that I didn't think was possible. And my quick summary of WAT is that you come together with a bunch of men that are going through a lot of the same stuff, and you do a lot of things that make you uncomfortable, jumping off cliffs, talking about your feelings, all the above. And by the end of it, well, I'm not even close to the end, but even at the end of that weekend, I felt closer with those guys than most people that I am surrounded around in my life. And now fast forward several months later, by nature of feeling close to those guys, you do business naturally, right? And so
yeah, that's kind of the trick to it, right? I mean, I know you got a couple of realtors working for you now that you met through the group, and you've done some deals, and you've had some mentors that are in the group. I mean, the former president of the National Association of Realtors is in your group, just exactly. Some of these people you get to just be around. But that is the magic of it is, it's most business is done with people we know, like, and trust. And so we spend all of our time getting to know each other, like each other, and trust each other. And so naturally a lot of business just happens.
It's insane. So I appreciate you for building Watt and like genuinely what it's done for my life specifically. My wife would say the same thing of like me as a husband, as a man, as a brother. So seriously, I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, man. And, you made it easy. Like you said, you were like the first guy to jump in. And anytime I do something, I try to make it easy on the person doing it. Right. And you do that. And that's one thing I appreciate about you is, I've joined masterminds and I don't make the guy call me 10 times. I don't make him, if I want to do it, I'll do it. And people appreciate that because you're working so hard to make it happen. And, I think you benefit every single person in the group by the way you show up. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited. We're only a couple months in, dude, but we're rocking.
Excited. Well, cool. Jimmy, I want to talk completely about your journey. And then here on the Winning Balance podcast, really the concept is getting people who are far more successful than me, yourself, who has put an emphasis again on people that they love. And being around you, being in the men's group, it's been very apparent on how you treat people around you. It's been apparent that you admit that you're not perfect and that you have shortcomings and that you fix those things. That's like, as a stubborn dude myself, like that's something that I have gone to respect. So I just want to hear about your journey and as things come up with people that you love, integrate that into the story. So just the first question for you, Jimmy, what made you get into real estate in the first place, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, my dad, when I was a little kid, he did some real estate and then he started selling insurance after that. But so I was always kind of intrigued by it. And then when I got home from my mission, I had a buddy start selling those like CDs that you'd listen to in your car, like Robert Kiyosaki and stuff. Oh, yeah. And he got a bunch of free ones to listen to and he gave them to me to listen. And I was hooked, man. It was like Carlton Sheets and, these are some of the OGs. Robert Allen and Kiyosaki. And I just realized that it was going to be a really good way to make money. And so selfishly, I wanted to figure out real estate for my own stuff, to buy my own properties. And so I got my license. And I didn't even know if I was going to do it or not, but I was like, well, I had about 6 months before my next semester was going to start for college. I had just got my associate's degree. And so I was like, all right, let me just dive into this for a minute. And I started selling a few houses and it was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I hired a mentor, Mike Ferry, I'm sure you're very familiar with in the real estate space. And, I'm really good at doing the work. And real estate, the thing I loved about real estate is all you have to do is you learn what to say, you learn how to say it, and then you say it all day. And so what it did getting a coach for me was it taught me what to do. And then they taught me how to do it, like how to, read behavioral styles, how to mirror people, how to close, how to sell, all those kinds of things. And so then I just did it all day. And my first full year as a realtor, I ended up selling 60 homes, won a bunch of, national awards for Rookie of the Year. This was back before there was teams everywhere. And so that was just on my own, just me.
That's insane.
Just sending faxes back and forth on my offers. And so... that's how it kind of started out. And then my next year, I brought on an assistant. I sold 98 homes my second year. And, I thought I was off to the races. And then the market collapsed. And so I had to go through this, like, it's interesting too, because I was pretty reckless. I didn't know how to save money. I didn't know how to invest properly. And so I bought a bunch of bad real estate investments. I spent a lot of money on dumb stuff that I shouldn't have. And so 2008, 9, 10, 11 hit. Those 4 years were really bad. To give you an idea, I think right now in our market, we still have like a 6 to 8 month supply of homes on the market. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And back then it was like 22 months, dude. It was, every house was upside down. Nobody had any money to buy. Nobody could qualify. It was crazy. And I was just grinding. I remember I was holding probably 60 listings a lot of times, 40 listings. I mean, I had a huge inventory. I remember having to buy a bunch more signs and key boxes and it was like, it hurt, it was like the market was. And back then average price was probably 140. And so you sell a house, it's not like today where if you sell one house, you get 15 to 20 grand. Back then it was like four grand, $3,000, but I just kept hustling and grinding and eventually we came out of that recession. And because I'd worked so hard in that time frame, once the market got pretty good, my business just skyrocketed. And within a few years, I ended up, my last full year in real estate, I was a mortgage agent in Utah. That year I sold almost 500 homes. My team sold 497 homes with 3 of us, basically, and a couple of assistants. And then I sold the most expensive home ever in Utah. And dude, I just assumed that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But I had this epiphany and I was just like, I need to do something more impactful, more meaningful with my life. I had been studying a lot because the coaching worked so well with Mike Ferry. I started reaching out to like, where else could I get coaching? And so I was, I hired Tony Robbins and a couple other different coaches. I probably had a dozen different coaches that I'd, hired in different ways. I'd been to a lot of events, seminars, conferences, all those things. So I was constantly learning. I loved learning. I read a couple hundred books in my 20s. And so I was just devouring this information. And so I felt like I knew a lot of things, or I'd seen a lot of things that really moved the needle for me. I'd had some very impactful moments in my life and so I started thinking to myself, when I had that epiphany that I needed to do something else, I thought to myself, okay, where could I have the most impact? What could I do that could really, just make a difference in the world? And it came to me in a meditation session that like the thing I think I do better than anybody is help men connect on a deep level. Help them truly form friendships. All my best friends all met through me. I've, put together dozens of groups of buddies that became best friends. And so I was like, if I just take all these things I've learned, I put them in this program and I teach people how to be a good friend, I think it'll work. And so I launched We Are the They, about 4 years ago. And I didn't know if it was going to work. I kind of did a test run with all my friends for my 40th birthday and took 30 of us out to Moab, did the jump, the rope swing and all that. And everybody just connected on the deepest level. And a couple of the wives messaged me. They're like, I don't know what you did with my husband. He came back a different man. Thank you so much. I was like, okay, I think this is going to work. And so, I threw my first group together and it's been pretty awesome. I've had the chance to coach over 500 guys now. Yourself, like you said, being one of them. And it's pretty cool, man. And the magic of what we do is it's really as a collective. There's so many guys that are so talented. They all bring different things. And so my only job is to create a container that people feel safe enough in that they get inspired to want to change themselves. Yeah. So every person gets a different thing, right? Every single person gets something different out of this. And, but the coolest part is the friendships that form, the relationships. And I spent my whole 20s, when I was building my real estate empire, dude, I'd go to a networking event 5-6 times a week. Like, I'm not joking. Like, that's all I did is I just was constantly either throwing events, parties, or going to them. Because I knew if I know enough people, I'm going to sell a lot of houses. Yeah. And so I just was constantly going to stuff. And so with this, it's almost like a cheat code. If you jump into WA and you literally just show up to the calls, show up to the event every couple months, you'll end up knowing several hundred people. And, there's a lot of potential there. And so I just took all those networking things, put it into this as a cheat code for guys like yourself, and really helps expedite everything you're doing.
I closed on a deal yesterday from a referral in Watt already.
Sweet.
And then obviously have Maverick and Coop. So it's been insane. But so that's a testament to just like the return. But it's funny because one of my other like preconceived thoughts on Watt at the time was like, okay, I'm going to join. Jimmy is going to be leading this and this is going to be about Jimmy, and he's going to be coaching us the whole time about business. Like, that's what I thought because it is your group and
sure.
And now I get to it and it's like, the group feels like to me, it's about us 50 guys and you are like the person that's facilitating, of course, but it's like less about you 100% than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. That's the thing is like, people, some of the knocks that people had, they're like, how's Jimmy going to teach that? He's not even married or he doesn't have kids. It's like, dude, it's like, I got some of the best dads on the planet. Rather than me get up and try to teach you guys, I just pull the right people, right? From all the groups and everything else. And, for fitness, I got guys like we have a class tonight that Mo's going to host. That dude is, as in shape as anyone I've ever met, And so there's all these different things, but that's part of the beauty of it is it's like, I don't have to do all that. And I would never join a group if I was the one that you had to learn from. And one of my buddies, he was a guy in group 2. And he said something once that I thought was really cool. He said, Jimmy, the genius of We Are the They is you've never once wanted people to be like you. Your only job is to make them the best version of them. And so the last thing I'm ever going to do is like, hey, live your life like mine. Honestly, I don't think most people should. I'm glad this is my life, but I'm probably wouldn't work for most people. And so at the end of the day, yeah, man, that's kind of the whole thing. That's cool to hear you say that, because that's what I was trying to go for.
100%. It's been amazing. So, a couple points. You talk about this 2008 crash, right? Like, I joined as an agent when I came to Utah. That was my first year as an agent. Before, I was on the investor side, figuring things out while I was doing tech sales. It was cush. I wanted more. When I moved to Utah, that's when I became an agent. So like 2 years ago, they claim that 2023, as for like a sales volume, was one of the lowest years in a long time. I think they say since 1995. Granted, it's way higher sales prices. But that's what I got used to, right? And I'm still a low transaction year. And so I'm hopeful when you hear, make it through this, if you can excel here, a good market comes and then you're off to the races. But you came in and had 60, right? In your first year,
yeah.
Which is insane. By yourself. How did that shift? Like in 2008, was it mostly investors that you're working with, or
no, back then it was, I would literally call for 3 hours every single day. I'd spend the first hour or 2 hours of the day calling for sale by owners. And then I would call my sphere of influence. I just call people I knew, and I literally just find them houses. I just say, hey, you want to buy a house? I'm not joking. Or I'd say, I'd call up people I knew, and I was relentless. I remember one time a buddy called me, and I'd probably called him, I don't know, it was probably the fourth or fifth time that year I'd called him. He's like, Jimmy, I don't know anyone looking to buy a house. If I do, I promise you, I will send them to you, and I will use you to buy my house. But you got to quit calling me all the time, dude. And I was like, all right, fair enough. It's one of the reasons why I started throwing so many events, because it actually gave me a really cool reason to call people. So I would call them and be like, hey, I'm throwing this big 4th of July party, or I'm throwing a big Easter party. We're going to have a helicopter drop eggs on people, or whatever it might be. Then it was like a really warm call. And so I had agents on my team that were afraid to make those calls. And so I figured out a way to make it super easy. And so I said, look, for the first year, just call them and invite them to the events. Then you can start asking for business. But that's what I did, man. And so, no, the majority of my business was, almost all of it was just people I knew, or for sale by owners. And then in 2010, 2011, I kind of saw the shift coming before others. The affordability back then, dude, you could buy houses for 120 grand, 150 grand that would rent for 1,500. And so you're like, this made so much sense, and rates were down, and so it was like, if I just get enough people to see this. So what I would do is I would find a house. This is what I did this all the time. I kind of worked backwards. I would find a house, and then I would map out how it would work to make people money. And then I'd just send it out to all my people, and I'd sell it every time. So I would wake up, and the first thing I would do is I'd scour the entire MLS and try to find a house that would be a good deal. So I did sell a lot of investors that way, starting in about 2010. And then in 2013, I had one big investor. It was a REIT out of California, and I sold them 85 homes in 3 months. We went door to door. They had a certain criteria that if it fit that criteria, they'd buy it. And so we just started knocking doors, and I found every neighborhood where those homes made sense for what they needed. And we would just tell everyone, hey, if you want to sell your home, I can give you market value right now. And you'd be shocked. We were selling 1 or 2, 3 a day. I mean, we sold 85 in 3 months. So yeah.
Dude, that's insane. Yeah, I wish numbers were that easy in today's market.
Yeah, but one of the things I always did, I think, better than anybody else is I adjusted quickly. And so when it made a lot of sense to call for sale by owners, I did. And then I was the first one to throw events. I was the first one to start working with investors, at least that I knew in this market. I was the first one that started using social media. I was the first one to have a podcast and start. I mean, the whole reason I did my podcast, I'm 650 episodes in now, and I can get anybody on my podcast. But the reason I started it, and that's why it's so cool that you're doing this, is I just said, if I can get a couple hundred people on my podcast that have influence in Utah and then make them potential clients, I'll get so much business from those people. Yeah. Right. And now, I mean, just from the real estate world alone, I've had, the founder of EXP, I've had, Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets. I've had, you name the real estate people I've had on is insane. Pace Morby a couple months ago. I mean, just you name it. But also I have had all the influencers and the movers and shakers here in Utah. And so it brought me a ton of business. But I've had my podcast for almost 8.5 years. So I was just way ahead of the game. And so I've been pretty good at just noticing trends. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me a lot is I've just been a little bit ahead of most people.
That's insane. Well, obviously I'm trying to follow in those footsteps. I finalized my trip to Maui today to go interview Brandon Turner.
Oh, sweet. You're going out there to do it?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's a nice place to
exactly.
have to go, you know?
Easy place. It's actually my first vacation with my little baby and my wife.
Cool.
So little nerves packed in there too with that flight, but we'll figure it out. I'm excited. But one thing, Jimmy, like you hit on the events, but I don't think most people understand the level that you've ran these events and how consistent. I mean, you spoke on how often 5-6 nights a week back in your heyday that you're going to these events. Does that get draining? Like,
for me, it wasn't, because I enjoyed being social. Like now I don't have that kind of energy. If I'm being honest, I like to spend a lot more time in solitude now, but I mean, it was fun for dating too. And so, dude, I mean, I'm telling you, it'd be like one night we'd have a poker night. The next night we'd throw a party for a football game or something. Yeah. The next night we'd all just go out to dinner, 20 of us. You know, it's not like I was putting it together, but it was like literally every night we would do something, you know, and just meeting new people all day, all the time. I threw a lot of barbecues when I was first got my license, and I also sold meat door to door. So I had all this steak and chicken, and I would just invite hundreds of people to come have steak and chicken, and we grill it up. Yeah. I mean, those events, again, it's like, it's funny to me, people, I see new realtors and they're making like 10 contacts a day, maybe. I'm like, what do you do all day? I don't understand. Like, just twiddle your thumbs, and like they're making these TikToks. I'm like, let me tell you a secret. Okay. I have 15 million likes on my TikTok. I have 500,000 followers. I've never got a single deal from TikTok. Okay. Like Instagram, you can, like I sold 30 houses in one day using my Instagram once, but you can do that, but it's like, it's a way to augment making the calls. And so agents used to come shout at me all the time. And they always said the same thing. They're like, this dude just never gets off the phone. Like he gets on the phone, he just never quits talking to people. So all day long, I mean, 8 or 10 hours a day, I was in one way or another trying to talk to people. And I just didn't do any of the stuff. I've never written a contract. I don't even know how to do it. If I had a rep C in front of me and somebody wanted to write an offer, I couldn't do it. I have to call my assistant. I swear to God, I do not know how to do it. Never learned how to, use the scanner. I just didn't want to. I knew what I did great. I had an amazing assistant that I still have. And then he would just do all that. And, we had a really good, just combination there. And so, that's why it worked so well.
That's amazing. Yeah. So luckily for me, I didn't start as an agent. I started in tech sales, where you literally, your job, you're given a list and you call all day. And so, that's like, I completely agree. When people become real estate agents, they think their phone's going to ring for them. They think if they post on social media once or twice, things are going to happen. But there's one day I counted, I was on the phone with 112 different people. And in that day, I was like, this has been psychotic. Like I just scrolled through my
intense day.
Yeah. And now it's like, obviously like drained. And I just let my wife know I'm going to be quiet for the rest of the day and my voice needs it. But that's what it takes. Like you can't, if it was easy and if it was a comfortable job, everyone would make money, and that's just not the case, right? So, I mean, I just said it's at a minimum, you got to talk to 30 people a day. That was just my goal every day, and I would hit it pretty much every day. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first year, let's talk in your real estate journey. You went from your first year of 60 homes in 1 year, and then you got to a point where you're the number one agent in Utah. What do you feel like was the biggest shift from being a high producer to being a number one agent in Utah?
The biggest shift, like what did I do to get there?
Yeah.
It's just the compound effect, man. Like when you're younger, I remember when I got my license, I was 24. So when I first started, even though I was hustling like crazy, I was really young, and you just don't know very many people. Even less people that have money. So I remember I made a list one time of people I knew that over 30. That was one of my like markers. I was trying to just meet as many people as I could that were over 30 years old. And I was just trying to find people with influence and trying to find more people. And it just compounded, dude. Every year it would go a little bit better. Obviously when the market, fell back, my production would go down a little. But over time, if you keep doing that and keep doing that, it's literally just the compound effect. I had my SOI, my sphere of influence, which is basically my database. I had 3 different sections. I had my elite clients, my A clients, and my B clients. My elite clients were people that would, no matter what, they would use me to buy a home. This is people that would never buy a house or sell a house without me because of the relationship we have. These are people that if you're talking at a party and somebody mentions they might sell a house, they don't just say, hey, you should call my friend Jimmy and give you their number. They go, dude, you got to use my boy Jimmy. Let me put you guys on a text together. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And when I first started, I think I had 12 elite clients. And my last year as a full-time agent, I had 350, right? People that I had just poured into so much. I mean, you do enough events for me. There's kids that had their first 15 years of their life, every holiday, they had a party thanks to my real estate team, like legit cool parties. People would, move their travel schedules to make sure they didn't miss my 4th of July party or, it's funny. I get texts right now, people hitting me up like, hey, what day are you doing the Easter party or whatever? And it's like weeks away still, But, and so by doing that, I had that elite list and I had my A list. And I always believed for every person you had in that elite list that was a true, they really belong there, you'd sell a house a year. That's just my belief. And it was pretty accurate. The A group, I had another 600. And these are people that are like, they for sure will probably use you as well, but they're probably not going out of their way. And if maybe they could save some money, they might find a way to do a deal without you, right? Stuff like that. Like, I'll give you an example of an elite client. I had a buddy, in fact, I was just with him this morning. One of my closest friends, I used to go undercover with him. And he was buying an office building. It was a $2 million office building in Draper. And I was like, he called me up and he's like, hey, I found this building I want to buy. Can you write up the offer? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really do commercial, but I will in this case. And I knew it was a good deal. I was able to do enough research on that. And I was like, I mean, dude, are you sure? Like, you could probably negotiate. He goes, are you kidding? I'd never buy something without you. And that's the kind of level of friendship I had with these guys, right? Your A clients, same thing. I mean, a lot of your past clients are going to be in there, and these are good clients. A lot of my family, they were A, they weren't elite, like people like that. They're just whatever. Your brother's busy. He's not really thinking about you all the time. And so I had another 600 people in that group. And then I had my B group was a couple thousand. These were people. And what I would do is my B group, I would call once a year. My A group, I'd call once a quarter. And my elite group, I'd call once a month. And that's how I ran it. And it's just, I knew every day what I was going to do. I'd wake up and that's what I'd do. And so because I was just consistent, again, dude, consistency is the number one way to success. It's like if you do something long enough and you figure out how to do it, you're going to make money. It's a scientific formula, like A plus B equals C. So if you get good at something and then you do it enough times. And so that's what happened, man. And then that last year, we did add in a lot of investors. I brought on, a guy named Tyler, who's my real estate business partner. And he's brilliant. He cares more about the clients than he does himself. Like the dude's just a machine and he runs these super cool pro formas on every house. And we did it a little bit different than most people. Most people, they do is if you say you want to buy an investment property, they're going to sit down, you're going to, talk about what you're looking for. And then they start looking for stuff. And then you're going to show you 3 or 4 homes. You're going to go look at them. We didn't do that. We set up a strategy session. We said, look, we only buy good investments. Here's what makes a good investment. We had it all mapped out. And then we would say, we got a team out looking for these all day. We sell about 8 a week. We got about 30 people in line, which we always did. And I said, when the next one pops up, when you're in line, we'll send it over to you. And so we would draw out the pro forma and it had literally probably 100 different pieces of data. I mean, we included everything. You could see how it performed in year 1, year 5, year 10, every single expense you'd have on this property, including vacancy and repairs and insurance, taxes, everything that goes into a real estate deal. And then we'd show them, look, if you can get it for this price, here's how much you'll be out of pocket. Here's your cash flow. Here's your annual rate of return. And so we would do that. And so when we found a house, literally we just hit up that client, say, hey man, we found your house. I'm going to send you the pro forma. If it looks good to you, let me know. And 9 times out of 10, they'd just be like, great, sounds good, let's buy it. 1 out of 10, if they said no, we say, okay, sounds good. And they'd be like, yeah, send me the next one. I was like, well, you go to the back of the line now because you passed. And so, and they knew that they were going to have to go to the back of the line. And so people very rarely passed. And they made sense. And to this day, I mean, we probably sold between Tyler and I a couple thousand of those houses. And I think every single one of them was a good deal. In fact, a girl, she's a friend of mine. She's a country singer in Nashville. She sent me a message on Instagram yesterday, and her friend bought one through us years ago. And she sent me the Zillow listing of it. She said, hey, I'm selling my friend's house. You guys helped her get this a couple of years ago. They're selling it for $265. I went back and looked. They bought it for like $148 a couple of years ago. I mean, they're crushing it. And they all were, because we did the research. So we knew which houses had the cash flow. We knew which ones were in good markets. We knew which ones would appreciate. And our clients just loved us. The average client would buy 3, 4, 5 houses. Right? I bought 15 of them myself in these markets, and I'm crushing all of them. And so we just really did the work up front. So that's how we were able to sell so many houses, because I would hold a seminar or I would do a Facebook Live and talk about investing in real estate. Just get people excited, or we'd go speak to a company or a sales group for Vivint or one of these solar companies, get 80 dudes. We'd just show them how this is how you get rich in real estate. And we were spot on, and it was boring and it was monotonous and it wasn't sexy, but that's how real estate investing should be. And so when we would show people, every time we would do one of those events or seminars or speak to people, we'd sell another 15, 20, 30 homes.
And how would you get paid? You didn't get licensed in those markets, right? You just
So we'd do it 2 things. Yeah. So 2 things. We would get a referral fee from the agents in those markets, but then we also charged $5,000 a house for doing all the legwork. So if you worked with us, there was a $5,000 fee to us. And then we also got a portion of the commission. So it worked out.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
That's freaking wild.
That's how I did it.
Well, now I need to, so my hard part is like, I've been so focused on in my backyard that I stay in Utah, and creative finance is like the only way.
Yeah, there's no good real estate investment properties right now in Utah with rates. There's nothing. That's why we had to move outside of Utah. We did it in Utah for a long time, so we made more money then because we'd get a full commission, right? Yeah. But when the market turned, one thing that we committed to each other, Tyler and I, we would never sell a house we wouldn't buy ourselves. And so we just quit selling the stuff in Utah. And I kept seeing all these younger agents and stuff selling these investment deals that were not investments at all, townhomes that you lose $600 a month on, and paying $550,000, and condos for $375,000. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you can't ever cash flow those.
Yeah.
And so we just, we had found the markets where you can.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. One question for you, Jimmy. You are the #1 agent in Utah at this point. Not anymore.
I was for a time.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm definitely not anymore.
I'm trying to rewind a little bit. When you were the #1 agent in Utah, you're still hosting all these parties, your social life, like you're easily the most social human being that I've ever met in my life. And that takes a lot of time, right? A social life and a #1 agent in Utah. How did you learn to give time to people that you loved?
Well, a lot of it goes hand in hand. I mean, when you're the one hosting all the events and parties, because that's what I did, I hosted most of them, you get to pick your schedule. That's the nicest part about being the one in charge. So I would work around my schedule. So I, would find time for my nieces and nephews, for my family. I never worked a Saturday or Sunday in all my years, dude. I never worked either. Like I very rarely, I'd go show a house or, the occasional listing appointment, but almost never. And I just got good at scheduling, and it's funny because if you're good enough at what you're doing and you just tell people how you work, people will treat you the way you train them. And so for me, most people like agents, you got a listing appointment, they're okay, I'll come out, we'll check out the house. I mean, you spend 3 hours by the time you drive there, do the appointment, leave, whatever. I started taking them over the phone. I just said, okay, let's do it. I just took one the other day over the phone. That's how I still do it because, and again, they're like, well, do you need to see it? And I was like, no, send me photos. And it's like, oh, okay. Like we just assume we have to do it this way. And so I just got really good at working my schedule. And then doing all these parties and events, one of the best parts about it is you can see so many people at once. So my family would come to all the parties. So I'm seeing.
Really?
Oh, of course. Yeah. They bring in my nieces and nephews and all that stuff, right? When they were little and stuff. So once a month, I'm seeing all my family members there. Once a month, I'm seeing all my best friends. I'm seeing all my ancillary friends. Like I get to, by doing a big party once a month, I was seeing a couple hundred people that were friends and family all the time. And so it actually, being that busy doing that is what allowed me to have so much FaceTime with everybody.
I love it. And you talk, just being in the group, I've heard you countless times talk about how much being like an uncle means to you, right? And so, and I don't know how much you want to share about this, but you've talked about times where maybe you haven't been a stand-up uncle, friend, etc. Are there specific times that you're like, I need to change this about my life for the betterment of my relationships?
Yeah, I mean, we all go through different phases of life, and we all make plenty of mistakes. You know, one of the things is I saw a meme the other day, and it was like, how did they phrase it? It was like, show some love to the version of you that didn't know any better, right? And so I've made plenty of mistakes in all sorts of areas. I currently have really great relationships with all my family members, but yeah, there's been years where it was strained. You know, when I left the LDS church, there's no playbook on how to do that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a mess for a while. And I was trying to figure out, all right, what are my morals? What is good and bad? What is right and wrong? What is, you know, and so, I had my first trip of alcohol at 34. I lost my virginity in my 30s. But when you no longer like believe a certain thing, you kind of want to see what's out there. And so I did end up in a lot of, just different situations. Well, I've got family members that are raising their family and they got great kids, they're raising a great family. And all of a sudden they look up to their uncle, because I've been to over 100 countries. I always have fun stuff going on, and their kids look up to me, and I'm over here talking about doing ayahuasca or, psychedelics. And so it did cause some rifts in my family, and that took a little bit higher level of awareness for me, I think. And I had to kind of put myself in their shoes a little bit more. One of the reasons I slow down now more than ever is back when I was younger. I mean, I was just a freaking ball of lightning, dude. Mm-hmm. Like I was just constantly moving and doing, and, we'll pick up the pieces later. And sometimes you leave, some people like feeling like maybe they were not cared for the way that maybe they would have wanted to. And so I had to start learning to be a little bit more self-aware of some certain things. But at the end of the day, it's all part of just the journey of life, man. And, I think one of the cool things about life as you get older is you realize that some people are in your life for a season, some for a time. I've got some of the guys that I thought would be my best friends for the rest of my life. And I got one buddy, I remember he was my best buddy, guy that I spent the most time with probably at age like 23, 24. And we didn't really talk much for 15 years. He got married, became a school principal, all these different things. And it's funny though, because like, you don't have to, those relationships don't have to remain the same. Last year we did this charity event for, we gave away like almost 100,000 toys for Christmas. We raised a bunch of money, gave away this crazy amount of toys for underprivileged people. And he called me up and he said, hey, he's a head of the district now in Granite School District. He's like, dude, we have so many kids that aren't getting Christmas. I said, dude, bring a diesel truck over. And he literally loaded up an 18-wheeler full of toys. I mean, tens of thousands of toys for all these kids. And so my point is like, we can still help each other. We still are in each other's lives, but I haven't seen him or his wife in, I don't know, 10 years maybe, and so not every relationship has to be forever. And I think that's part of the beauty of life is you grow and you find different avenues and different things. You find different people that are supposed to be there for that time.
I love it. And one thing that I've learned from you, Jimmy, is like, as we improve as men, as human beings, like the grace that you give to other people grows immensely. Mm-hmm. And that's like something that I've been trying to practice is as I grow, I give a lot more grace to people who are going through stuff, right? Like, and I know you've done that in your relationships, and I look up to that a lot. So, how are we doing on time? We're doing okay. Okay.
Great, yeah.
So when I look at your journey, Jimmy, I think like in my head, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor right now, and it's great. But there's always this part of me that like in 10 years, I don't think I dream of being a realtor, right?
Kind of where I was like, if I'm still doing this when I'm 50, I don't think I'll be real happy about it.
Exactly.
It's a great life. It really is, but it's draining. I mean, it's time for money,
Yeah, 100%. It's a job, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's super cool what you've done and kind of grown out of that into something that aligns with your personality and with your goals, right? But I mean, who knows what my 10-year journey looks like, right? But what can you say about those agents that are doing a decent amount of volume, but burnout is such a real thing in this industry. And like, that's probably why in 10 years, I'm like, goodness, I don't know if I could do that. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a key, because I did it for 17 years full time, right? And that's a pretty long time, and I still do it part time now. But I think you have to figure out how to do it in a way that you really like in general with life, whatever you're doing for work. Find a way to do it in a way that you really enjoy. So for me, when I was calling for sale by owners, after about 5 or 6 years, dude, I got burned out. Like, I was done calling for sale by owners. I remember I had a sit down with my coach at the time, my real estate coach, Bill Pipes, and I was like, dude, I don't think I want to do this anymore. This was like 2010 or 11, right around then. He goes, all right, well, let's switch it up. And the market was just dog shit at the time. I mean, it was bad. And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to throw parties. I want to throw events. I want to use social media. I want to do these cool things. He's like, all right, let's do that. And so I literally set up a game plan. That's when I started doing parties and events and networking and, using social media and all that stuff. I didn't want to burn out. And so I did it in a way that I really enjoyed it. And so I think the key, especially as a realtor, is you gotta, look, there's a grinding phase. And if you haven't put in the 5 to 6 years where you're just grinding the phones, you'll probably never be a top producer, just being honest. You just won't. But if you love doing open houses, throw one every week, throw 2. If you don't love open houses, don't do. I never did a single open house. I can't stand it. Yes. No, thanks. I'll sit there like a dummy and hope somebody shows up. I don't get on the phone and call 10 people, And so for me, it was like, I just found ways to do it where I really enjoyed it. And then also, I did a lot of side things. I took, in 3 years, I went and coached high school baseball at Bingham High School. I went and I was an EFY counselor at one time, all while I was doing real estate. I set up side businesses, even when I launched Weir the They, I was still a full-time agent for about 6 months after that. And so I just found other things that I enjoyed doing. So that when I was in my workday, and by the way, one of the cool things about throwing so many parties and events, so if I'm working my ass off in real estate, but I need a break, I go work on my Halloween party for an hour, or I'd go work on my podcast for 2 hours, right? Or like whatever. And so I could put in 12, 15 hours on days and not feel burned out because I was doing so many different things. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the key.
And one thing that you said that most people are going to glance over is you call for sale by owners for 5 or 6 years, you said, when you didn't love doing it. And the average human being is going to jump in and make calls for a day. Yeah. And they give up, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, by the way, I even found a way to like calling for sale by owners. I mean, as much as you can, right? Yeah. I just played games with it. I would joke around. I'd have fun. If people yelled at me, I'd just have fun with it. And whatever. And
100%. So. And that's a shift that I've made recently is like when I first started, I was on a team, right? I was on a high producing team, and those Zillow leads, what I learned as I started doing more deals is those Zillow leads treat you a whole lot different than someone from Instagram or someone in your buddies.
Sphere. Oh yeah.
They expect you to show a home whenever they want. They expect you to. It's wild, right? And
yeah. And by the way, one other thing I should add is I really did a great job of taking vacations. Once a month, I'd go on a trip, at least once a month. So like I said, I've been to 114 countries. I've been to every major sporting event you can imagine. I would do it to benefit my business too. I remember taking 15 friends to Haiti for a service project. I would throw my Lake Powell trip once or twice a year where I'd get 30 to 100 people on a houseboat in Lake Powell. I've sold more homes because of Lake Powell trips than anything else I ever did. I'm not joking. That's where I met my real estate partner, Tyler. Yeah, I even sunk the houseboat and made deals out of that. But literally, dude, that's how I got so many deals is I would take 20 people and would go camping or would go boating. Like the first year I bought my boat, we probably went boating 45 times that year. And every single time I just make sure I brought new people. And so, dude, I was meeting so many people, and you're on the boat. They're like, how do you have a boat? You're 28 years old, like, oh, I'm a realtor, By the way, you said, how else do you make sure you keep it fun? Like, it's pretty freaking fun when you're cashing checks every day. Yeah. That's kind of fun too.
For sure. That's what keeps me going. Well, what does the next 10 years look like for Jimmy right now? Like, have you thought about that? Even 5 years? Like,
I tried to go out 10 years because if I go back 10 years, my life looks nothing like I thought it would have. And so I think 5 years is the right place to go. I mean, I just bought my new house. I'm really trying to go to that next phase of life. I'm ready to settle down and probably have kids and start a family and all that. That's where the direction everything's going. I slow down a lot more now than ever. Every day, from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. is my own personal time. I don't work. And so I do a lot of different practices between going for a walk, the gym, meditation, embodiment work, all these different things that just help put me in the right place every single day. Trying to spend more time for family. You know, my one little nephew, he's going to be like the stud all-star baseball player. He's like one of the best in the state. He's a freshman this year. I've already planned it. I'm not going to miss a single game for 3 years. You know, it's like, I just love watching him play. Stuff like that, man. I don't have these big, ambitious business goals. I want to continue to run We're the They. But I'm not attached to what that needs to look like. I love doing it. And as long as that keeps being the case, we'll keep doing it. But I don't know. Yeah, I really am just like trying to do less. I used to always just be running 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I really enjoy the depth of my relationships and friendships now. And so I probably have quite a bit less people I speak with every day, but much deeper friendships with them. Yeah.
And I hope you keep doing what, because like even in my life, I look at people like, goodness, like my brother, for example, I would love. And he's open to it. So I'm like, cool. The next one, you gotta.
Yeah, we'll launch the new group in August. We're going to have another group open.
Good.
So I'm at least going to do it for a couple more years.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Jimmy, advice for a young hustler, let's like young 20s, in your 20s in general, especially like someone that wants to be a successful entrepreneur, successful in general financially, but also has a huge emphasis on being a family man, not even just family man, but a good friend to the people around them, values the relationships with people they love. What advice would you give to those young hustlers?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for men, I think your number one responsibility is you can't be a liability to people in your life. Physically, financially, and emotionally. So you got to work on those 3 things, you know, take care of yourself first and foremost. You've got to be in shape. You got to be moving every day. The second one is financially, like you've got to be successful. So there's times when you got to grind, and then there's times where, you know, you can put more effort into like, you know, being a dad or brother or whatever that son, whatever that might look like. And then that third part, the emotional, and that's where you got to get into something like a program like We're the They. I mean, we spent 3 days at our last event talking about the father wound and digging into that. I mean, I've had so many guys tell me how that's changed their whole life. Yeah. Like I had a guy on the walk with me 2 days ago that said that he basically had always looked at his dad as a certain way. He's like, now I just love him. And it's like, you've got to work through those emotional things too. And so the more you can focus on those three things, but there's a time to be strategically unbalanced. Yeah. You know, and I just say wherever you're at, be there. So if you're with your family, be with your family. But when you're working, work. Like one of the mistakes that a lot of realtors make is they go to the office and they just sit there and hang out with each other. And all the agents in my office probably thought I was kind of a dick, but I was like, none of you were going to buy houses off me. So I just didn't spend time with them. I had a sign on my door that said, stop. Does this conversation need to happen? And I just closed my door and went to work, man. It was like dead serious. It's like, and I joke, I was good friends with all of them too, but it was like, I didn't go to work to waste my time, you know? So if you want to be a great family man, great, do it. My brother Dale does that amazingly. He works his butt off and then he goes home to his family. I don't think he's missed a single important thing in his family in 15 years, but he also puts in the work when he's there. And so wherever you are, be there, you know, and really be present, put the focus on. And if you do that, there's time for everything.
I love it. And that's something like for me, I'm actively learning. As I got my first kid, she's 4.5 months old, and it puts things into perspective fast, right? Like before you can take calls in the evening, then you go give your wife a kiss and everything's okay. But when you have a baby like when I get home from work, I have like 2.5 hours with her. And that time now, like everything about my perspective changed. I have to be present or else I'm losing those precious times. Like she grows up so fast on a week by week basis. It's wild. So I appreciate that advice, Jimmy. I appreciate you coming on for sure. And we'll be seeing more of you.
Thanks, dude. No, you're a hustler, man. I see a lot of myself in you, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing it awesome.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, bud.